Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of the NASCAR Heat 5 career mode here on the channel. I hope you're all having a great day. Today we come to the Brickyard 400 here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. There was an Xfinity race, but I did not show that, but I do have the finishing order here on the screen where Brandon Jones actually picked up the victory here in the Indiana 250 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get any pit reporters for this race or a post-race interviewer, so I just had to kind of do that myself now, as we're going to jump right into the Cup Series here in Indianapolis. So a track that I look forward to coming to quite a bit here in the career mode. So we come through into our qualifying attempt here as we dive down into turns one here. The goal was a 51.845, so hoping that we can, of course, match that. Usually we have a pretty good history at this racetrack. Last time I came here in the NASCAR Heat 4 career mode, we actually picked up the victory at this racetrack. So I was definitely confident coming into this one here as we came through now, diving down into turns 3 towards turn 4. Of course, a very unique track here in Indianapolis. Doesn't always produce the best races in real life, but it always seems to put on a pretty decent show here in the NASCAR Heat video game. Now it's come through out of turns 4, heading down this front straightaway. It was actually a pretty solid lap. I felt like I could have loosened the car up more and made it work, so that's something I'm going to have to keep in mind for the race. But we come through to the line there, beating our goal with a 51.598, and we qualify in the top 10 here in the 9th position. So anytime, honestly, when I qualify in the top 10, my confidence definitely gets quite a boost now. So definitely confident going into this one. Jimmy Johnson up here in P7, many wins he has now at this racetrack, and of course his last Brickyard 400, he would love to get to victory lane here if he had the opportunity now as we get ready to go green for the Big Machine Vodka 400 at the Brickyard. And on the pole for Indianapolis is our Joe Gibbs Racing teammate of Kyle Busch. But before we jump straight into the race, there you see Indianapolis in the background from Microsoft Flight Simulator, as well as the playoff standings. Right now, Cole Custer, the last car in the playoffs, is 4 points to the good. Kenseth has dropped down to 15th place, 38 above. Christopher Bell, of course, 4 points out. You see, though, De Benedetto down in P20, he's only 33 points out. So definitely a lot of shakeups can happen here in this final run towards the playoffs now, as we're ready to go green here for the Big Machine Vodka 400 at the Brickyard. And last episode, the Penske drivers of Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, they were able to pick up some victories in that Pocono doubleheader, and of course we had a chance to win in the Pocono doubleheader, and unfortunately it did not quite work out in our favor as we ended up in the wall on the exit of turns 3 on the final lap. But there you see 3 drivers starting in the back, Ty Dillon, Kurt Busch, as well as Chad Fincham here as we're ready to go green, though, on the outside of our teammate of Denny Hamlin, now starting behind the 7-time champion of Jimmy Johnson. Now as we're ready to go green, and the green flag is that we do move up 1 position up to P8 due to Kurt Busch starting at the back of the field here. Kyle Busch, though, trying to pick up yet another Brickyard 400 victory now. I believe this will be the 3rd of his career if he can hang on in today's episode now, as he went back-to-back back in, 2015 and 16, I think it was now, as we dive down into turn 2. Losing a spot there to the 3 of Austin Dillon, being on the south side, of course, quite the disadvantage. Now as we come through, heading down this backstretch, already clear to me that the 48 of Jimmy Johnson does not quite have 7th place speed, which I already felt bad for him, because Jimmy Johnson just hasn't quite had the final season he was looking for in real life or now in the career mode here as we dive down into turn 3. Behind that 48, Kyle Busch already putting a gap between himself and 2nd place here as we come through into turns 4. So 11 laps here in stage 1. We can make it to the end of this first stage on field. That will not be a problem now as we exit turn 4 side by side with the 48 of Jimmy Johnson, and we come through to pass him for the 7th position. That 48's looking a little bit slow, guys. That kind of sucks to see. So we move up into that 7th spot here as you heard the radio transmission from myself to the team. Just kind of saddened to see the 48 not just having the speed he needs now, as we're going to get up the inside of Ryan Newman into turns 2. Newman has been solidly in the playoffs this whole season here in the career mode, and I honestly think we're going to see him make it to the playoffs, but I think it'll be kind of a first-round exit now as we go down this backstretch, trying to get to that left rear quarter panel of the 2 of Brad Keselowski, who won last time out in the Pocono doubleheader here as we dive down into turns 3. We're going to be able to try and take over a top 5 position already from the 2012 Cup Series champion here. Logano as well getting up into the mix behind us as we dive down through turns 4. One problem I have quite a bit here in Indianapolis is trying to clear certain drivers out of the corner. I can usually get a pretty good entrance, but they always are able to fight back on that outside. So that's something we're going to have to definitely keep in mind here in today's episode now as we come through. Running down the 19 of our teammate Martin Truex Jr., but then the caution comes out for the first time here today in the Brickyard 400. But right now, something to note, all 4 Joe Gibbs Racing cars in the top 5. The only non-JGR car is the 9 car of Chase Elliott there for Hendrick Motorsports. Nobody coming to the pit lane at the end of stage, or at the end of that caution cycle, because we can make it to the end of the stage here on field now as we get ready to go green. Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott on row number 1 as the green flag is back out. Row number 2 made up of Denny Hamlin as well as Martin Truex Jr., then myself and Joey Logano here on row number 3 here with 6 laps to go now at the halfway point of this first stage. It's pretty evident that once again we have some good speed, and we've been showing some speed here lately in the career mode over the last few races, especially starting at Pocono, and I think hopefully we can carry this throughout the rest of the regular season as well as into the playoffs. Most notably, last episode we did pick up a stage victory in Pocono, as well as we were so close to our very first race victory. Unfortunately, couldn't quite pull it off. Now as we're going to pass Martin Truex Jr. down the back straightaway, take over P4 here as we get right in behind Denny Hamlin, tucked in behind him as we dive down into turn 3, just clipping the apron just a little bit, but we are able to keep going straight here as we go down towards turns 4 as Chase Elliott tries to battle back on that outside of Hamlin, but doesn't quite have enough for him. But he doesn't quite get the run he needs out of 4. Now I'm going to close in on the back of the Hendrick driver and get to the inside of Elliott. He needs to maybe even consider getting himself in a must-win scenario now at this point. But we clear Elliott. Now we get up the inside of our teammate of Hamlin with 5 to go in stage 1. And exactly right there, you can see what I was talking about. We just can't always just get through the corner the way I need to when I have an AI on the outside of me here as we dive down into turns 2. And now Elliott trying to stick with me, but we come through out of turns 2. We gotta give him the space because he's just barely there. And sure enough, he would continue on my outside all the way through turns 3 and all the way through turns 4, as well as we went down the front straightaway here, running for P3, trying my best to clear Elliott, and this continued into turns 1 now on lap 8, and we were still side by side with the Hendrick Motorsports driver here as we dive down into the corner. I just couldn't clear Chase Elliott to save my life at this point now as we came through out of turns 2. Of course, he's fighting for every single point he can get, and you cannot blame him here as we go down this backstretch. And instead of trying to side draft him too hard, I decide we're actually just going to fade in behind him here as we go down this backstretch, approaching just 3 laps to go now in stage 1. So definitely a little bit disappointed that I couldn't quite complete that pass, but of course I was going to try and set him up as soon as possible here to try and pass him back, but it was just such a tough time. But now Elliott is going to pounce to the inside of the 11 of Hamlin here, so clearly the 9 has some speed, and I guess that probably has to do with me not being able to pass him now, as I'm actually going to give him push and see if we can push both of ourselves past Denny Hamlin. And now we are actually going to get up into P3 as we do clear Hamlin into turns 1, but he fights back a little bit, but we do slide up in front of him, and now we finally get ourselves in 3rd place now as we came through out of turns 2. Now on lap 9 of 11 here in stage 1, we get to the outside of the 9 car of Chase Elliott. Now we're going to take over 2nd place, so going to the outside worked a lot better than when it was me trying to pass him on the inside. Now as we dive down into turn 3, we run down Kyle Busch, our teammate, coming to 2 to go in stage 1. Using that draft, we get alongside our teammate of Kyle Busch for the lead here in the Brickyard 400 as we dive down into the corner. But once again, you can see right there, just don't quite have the speed. But that was my first attempt at taking the lead, so of course it wasn't going to be a pretty one. And now as we come through now, starting the final lap in stage 1, once we cross the line, we get to the inside of Kyle Busch again, side drafting him for a moment, and then pulling away, creating that gap here as we dive down into turns 1. But once again, the 18 is able to pounce back on that outside as we exit turns 1. Elliott tucked in right behind us if something happens. Last time we were battling with Kyle Busch for the lead, it was for the win in Pocono in the last episode, and we saw how that ended now as we come through out of turns 2. The caution comes out down the backstretch and ends stage 1 a little bit over half a lap early, so we're going to have to settle for the 2nd position here in stage 1. Car feels great, guys. I don't know if we should do anything to it. I think we have something here. Maybe we could have a winning car. We definitely have some strong speed, as you heard from my radio transmission telling the team. We would take 2 cans of fuel as well as 4 tires, and the pit crew comes in clutch and puts us P1 for the restart here in the Brickyard 400 for the start of the 2nd stage now, which is underway with myself leading, Kyle Busch on my outside, Hamlin and Elliott on row number 2 now as we dive down towards turns 1. Hamlin definitely going to be able to pass Kyle Busch here, which could be an advantage to myself because we've clearly seen that Denny Hamlin is not a top 2 car now as we go down towards turns 2, so I was very happy to actually see him get up in the mix here now, as I was hoping he would clear Kyle Busch and maybe hold him off, as that would give me an opportunity to drive away here on the opening laps of this 2nd stage now, which is just like stage 1, 11 laps once again here in the Big Machine Vodka 400 at the Brickyard, presented as well by Florida Georgia Line here as we come through turns 3, exiting the corner there. You see Hamlin, Kyle Busch still side by side for that 2nd position. Logano now coming into the mix, passing the 9 car of Chase Elliott. Always got to keep an eye on Joey Logano in these videos. He just seems to kind of quietly get himself into a position to where he has an opportunity to maybe sneak in a win now. He's come through crossing the line there, completing the first and opening lap of this second stage. But we've been doing a very good job lately here now all of a sudden of just running up front, getting some laps led, and hopefully just like Pocono, we can come through to win this second stage here in the Indianapolis Brickyard 400. Now has come through now on lap 3. We had actually opened up the gap just a little bit there to the 11 of Hamlin, as Kyle Busch was faster for sure than Hamlin. I think Kyle Busch is even faster than me, but he just could not quite make that pass on the outside. So it was working all in my advantage, because I believe Hamlin was holding up 2, 3, maybe even 4 cars at this point, and that was just allowing me to comfortably hang on to the lead. Hamlin was close enough to keep a little bit of pressure on, because we come through now on lap 6 of the stage. He'd actually closed in a little bit here, which kind of caught me off guard, because we were stretching that gap out just a little bit there over those first handful of laps here in stage 2. So that was a little bit of a concern, thinking maybe the car's kind of giving away at this point here as it closes up even more within about 2 car lengths or so as we go down the back straightaway. But we would come through turns 4 now, and he's even closer at this point, but I get a very good exit on the exit of turns 4, and we now start to once again stretch that gap out a little bit down the front straightaway. And as these laps went on here towards the end of stage 2, we started to really stretch out that gap now. As came through turns 2 now on lap 7, you can see in the rear view mirror, Hamlin still second place, holding up everybody. Logano now into third. Kyle Busch wasn't even in the top 3. We come through on lap 8, and you can really see now the gap building up. We were driving away at this point, all because of Denny Hamlin just being in the way. Now, as we saw this in Pocono as well from the second place driver, which all of a sudden these last 3 races now, there's been a second place car just in the way of everybody. We were now almost, we were a second and a half, getting close to 2 seconds ahead of second place of Denny Hamlin here as we came to 2 to go on the stage. So of course, no excuses at this point if I lose stage 2. It's just trying to hang on, and like I said a while back, it's all about trying to pick up some more playoff points as well as get that race victory. And there's the playoff point there, because stage 2 ends early due to a caution now, as Chase Elliott up there in P5, and to round out the top 10 is Brad Keselowski now. So great for us. We get another stage victory for 2 races in a row. Good stuff, guys. I honestly did not think we were going to get that. I got to really honestly say thanks to Denny on that one. I think if it wasn't for him, Kyle probably would have got us. Alright, so we would take 2 cans of fuel once again, as well as 4 fresh tires, and get ready to go green here for the third and final stage, which we will be leading here. The pit crew gets us off in P1, just like where we came in now, as the green flag is out in the third and final stage is underway here on the Brickyard 400. 15 laps remain, 4 extra laps than we saw in stage 1 as well as stage 2. And as we dive down into turns 1, you see immediately Logano gets to the inside of Hamlin as we come through out of turns 1, heading up towards that wall, but Logano catches me off guard and is able to slip up the inside as we dive down into turn 2. I did not expect such a big run from the 22. He drives right on by me, and so does the 9 of Chase Elliott. They just clearly got better launches out of turn 1, as I just took the typical line through the exit of turns 1 down towards turns 2. Now as I push the 9 to the inside of Logano, trying to get them battling side by side, because I want to be up back in P2 as quickly as possible. But definitely a mistake on my part there. I honestly, I should have been defensive, but at the same time, it was just the very beginning of stage 3, so I didn't see a need to try and be very defensive. There's a little bit of contact made with the 22 now, as it looks like Ryan Blaney maybe has moved up into the 4th position now, as Kyle Busch has had so much speed in this race, and all of a sudden he is faded after being held up by Hamlin in stage 2, and now stage 3 has not started the way he has wanted now, as he fades in behind. He's 3 wide with Harvick and Hamlin now, as we're still side by side with the 2018 Cup Series champion of Joey Logano now, has come through turns 2, doing my best to try and clear the Penske driver. Now to turns 2, we make the move and get clear of Joey Logano. Now we try to run down Chase Elliott, who of course wants to win this race to put himself in the playoffs. Now he had a rough start to the season, and he's been so much just trying to build up those points and try to get back into a spot to where he can fight for a playoff spot. But at this rate, I just don't think it's going to happen, and Elliott is definitely going to have to win a race. But of course, here we are looking for our very first win in our career in the Cup Series in our rookie season, as we exit turns 2 side by side now down the back straightaway with Chase Elliott. We have the opportunity, of course, every time to get to the inside of the leader because of the draft. We have so much hope from that draft, but as we dive down into turns 3, it just kind of evens out, and Elliott is able to fight back on the outside here as we go down towards turns 4, and he just gets such a better run. And I had the same problem in the last NASCAR Heat game, and then I make a mistake and allow Elliott to get clear now as Logano tries to pounce on an opportunity to get to my inside. He does get to my inside here as we go down this front straightaway right on my left rear quarter panel, but thankfully due to that draft from the 9 of Chase Elliott, we're actually able to get back clear of Logano. Kyle Busch has actually rallied his way back up towards the 4th position, as we did see him 3 wide earlier with Harvick and Denny Hamlin as well, as we maybe look to the outside of Elliott, but I fade in back behind him here as we dive down into turns 2, but there's trouble behind. Ryan Blaney goes spinning into the outside wall here, and he almost gets airborne there as we come through. You see him stop there in the grass, but he's actually going to pull back into traffic. That's a terrible idea as he gets nailed by the 00 of Quinn Hoff, but Blaney had a great start to stage 3. He worked his way up to P4, and clearly he had faded and then blown a tire, but I went back to past NASCAR Heat 4 footage to make this strategy call here and decide no tires was the way to go for what could be this possible last restart of the race. And thankfully we come out P2 exactly where we should now, as the green flag is back out and we are underway now with less than 10 laps to go here on the Brickyard 400. Blaney, of course, now going to really spice it up, because now we got Kyle Busch right back in the mix, as well as Logano still here up in that 3rd position as we exit turns 2, trying to stick with that 9 the best I can as we dive down into turns 2. Unfortunately though, Elliott gets clear of me, and of course I want to be ahead of Logano as quickly as possible, but unfortunately he's nearly clear, but we fight back with that draft. Thank goodness Chase Elliott decides to run up in front of me, but he actually kind of pulls down there in front of the 22, but I have enough of a pull here as now we are actually going to look to the outside of the 9 of Elliott, trying to see what I can do through turn 3. We build up the run, but not enough there through the center of the corner. I just pushed it in a little bit too hard there on the entrance, and now we're going to lose the spot to Logano, so maybe it would have been smart to just stay in behind the 9, because now we're under attack as well from the 4 of Harvick. I have to get out of the throttle there to make sure I don't hit the wall, and the 4 clears me, as well as the 1 car of Kurt Busch gets to my inside down the front stretch as well now as we come through 8 laps to go in the Brickyard 400 as we dive down towards turns 1. We clear Kurt, and I make sure to get down right away to make sure we don't risk giving up that spot to that 1 car now as we come through out of turns 1 right on the back of that 4 car of Kevin Harvick. Not impressed with myself giving up all those spots here on the restart, but now we have to be right on the attack here, getting to the inside of the 4, but I got a little bit of oversteer on the car there and had to give up that chance now as we came through though down the front stretch, hitting lap 34 back to the inside of Harvick, right to the back of the 22 now of Joey Logano as we dive down into turns 1. Harvick and myself side by side, can't quite complete the pass right here as we exit turns 1. Once again the car was feeling a little bit slippy on the exit of the corner, so I was having to be very careful, but Logano would take the lead from Elliott. I'm pushing Harvick past Elliott here as we come through down into turns 1. 6 laps to go at this point here in the Brickyard 400 now as we get up the inside of the 9, almost making contact there on his left rear. There might have been just a little bit here as we dive down into turns 2. Elliott now clearly fading here in the final laps of this race. Joey Logano looking for his first Brickyard 400 victory. Kevin Harvick in that 2nd position looking for his first win of the season. And of course, I'm looking for my first career win in my rookie season here as we dive down into turn 3. Kyle Busch now up the inside of Elliott behind us, but Harvick up the inside of Logano is going to take the lead here as we clear Elliott now as we come through into turns 4, and Harvick clears Logano as we come through out of turns 4. We got to keep the attack right on the back of the 22 of Logano. We got to get there as quickly as possible and make that move for 2nd place here, as it will be 5 laps to go at the line. We have a huge run, 196, 197, and even 98 miles per hour. Into the corner here as we're side by side with the 22. Once again though, as soon as I get a car on my outside through the corners, the run just does not work for me as we come through down into that 2nd corner. Knowing though I need to be aggressive and clear that 22, I push hard there and get a little bit of a wide exit, but we make it work now and we clear Logano, who's right up against that wall, it looks like here as we go down the backstretch. Now can we put the attack on Kevin Harvick? 5 laps to go. We're going to look to the inside of the 2014 one-time Cup Series champion here, side by side into turns 3 now as we come through the center of the corner. Just once again a little bit loose there, and that allows Harvick to pounce back, and obviously that makes the side by side on the bottom even worse in the corners because the car is loose now as we exit turns 4. You saw me hit the apron there and give up that chance of passing Harvick for the lead, but we need to just keep this attack on the back of the 4. I decided here we're actually going to push Kevin and try to build up a gap between myself and 3rd place, so that way we can have a little bit more time to try and make a move on Kevin here as we come through now down the backstretch on lap 37. Once again up the inside of Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch and Logano, they were battling for 3rd and 4th behind us now as they were in a little bit of a side-by-side duel of their own as we're nearly in front of Harvick as we dive down into turns 3. We did have the edge on him, but once again just got to make sure I hold that bottom lane, but Harvick pinches us down and he does that so well as we come through down into turns 4, and once again just not going to work here as we exit the corner. right on his left rear. There was a little bit of contact here as we go down this front stretch, but once again, now 3 laps to go at this point, out of turn 2. We gotta give it everything we've got. We were doing something very similar in the last episode to Kyle Busch at Pocono, putting as much pressure on as I could here as we dive down into turns 3. Once again, doing everything I can to take the lead. We're about half a car length ahead, but of course, not enough. Harvick just does a good enough job to pinch us down enough to where I just can't quite get him now. He's come through out of turns 4. Once again, this is really his strong point, as he's able to get clear of me every time, but I'm right on that left rear quarter panel trying to side draft. Not enough, but Kyle Busch now getting into the picture 2 laps to go at this point here on the Brickyard 400 as we look to the inside once again, side by side with the 4 of Harvick. We had once again as well built up that gap to Kyle Busch, so we have a lap and a half to scrap it out here as we dive down into turn 3. We're nearly clear of the 4 as we come through the center of the corner, but once again not enough as I'm fighting that loose handling car on the exit and really through the center as well of these corners now as we come through turns 4. At this point we cannot give up that clear position of Harvick as we have to stay on the inside of him here as we come through down the front stretch, side drafting him very hard, bringing Kyle Busch into the mix here as we come through, starting the final lap here on the Brickyard 400 as we dive down towards turns 1. 194 there into the corner that time. You can see how much of a difference the draft makes as we come through side by side. A little bit of contact there with the 4 of Harvick now, so we're going to have to be a little aggressive here and maybe get a little bit physical if we want to win this race for the first time in our rookie season. As we come through out of turn 2 loose again, Harvick has a huge run, but we side draft him just enough. We're barely able to hang on there as Kyle Busch is right here behind us as we have to side draft him even more to make sure he doesn't clear us into turn 3, because if he clears us, it's over at this point now as we come through side by side again. We nearly have him clear 3/4 of the way, but not enough. The tire icon comes on, but who cares at this point as we dive down into turns 4 on this final lap in the Brickyard 400, still side by side with Harvick. Kyle Busch right behind us is contact with the 4 of Harvick now as we're side by side down the front straightaway coming to the line. Kyle Busch looking, but not enough as it's side by side at the line to photo finish, but we win for the first time in our career here in the Cup Series. What a finish there with Kevin Harvick. Like I said, photo finish at the line, and finally in our rookie season, closing in on the end of the regular season, we pick up our first career win. You guys have been asking for so long, when's that win coming? And I didn't know, of course, and finally we are able to pick it up, and I'm so happy that we got that out of the way. And what a historic track to do it at. Indianapolis, the Brickyard 400 is now forever in the NASCAR Heat 5 career mode, at least going to be the home to our first career win. Kind of like NASCAR Heat 4, our first career win in the Cup Series was at another prestigious race of the Coca-Cola 600. So it's almost like we got a bit of a history here of picking up career win number 1 at a prestigious race now. So very happy to pull that off, and I hope you guys are happy as well, because you know you stuck around for so long waiting on win number 1, and finally we make it happen here in Indianapolis. Had to be a little bit aggressive there. I got into Harvick on the exit of turns 4, and we made some contact, but it worked out in the end as we still came across the line 1-2. As you saw the margin of victory up there on your screen now for a brief moment now between myself and Kevin Harvick. There you see the rest of the finishing order. Eric Almirola all the way down in P28. Almirola not in a great position, but he still has an opportunity to make the playoffs. Ryan Blaney, of course, DNF'd. I did not have anyone here to unfortunately give me a question for the post-race interview, but we're going to have that screen up on anyways, and then just kind of say what I have to say about that victory. But it's nice to actually finally have a victory celebration here in the career mode as well. But yeah, we've been fighting all season long to finally get to this spot here. As you see, finished first, Brickyard 400 winner. I screwed up that screen in the last episode. I accidentally saved it under, saved 2 different ones under the same file, so then it won the second race, like overlapped, and it saved on the end of race 1 and accidentally spoiled the second race. So that was just a mistake on my part, but still so happy. I honestly didn't think this was the race we were going to get our first win. I thought it was going to be earlier in the season at like Bristol or something, but no, we pick it up here in the Brickyard 400. So, you know, thank you all for sticking around, and finally we were able to make it happen here in the career mode. Been working so hard to get that win, and we made it happen. So we're locked in the playoffs. Of course, we were going to point our way in anyways, no matter really how rough the season was from this point on. There's, you see, a lot of drivers congratulating us, thankfully, here on the Brickyard 400 victory. Now, as in the next episode, we will be going to Kentucky Speedway. So a mile and a half again, a track that I've had mild success at in the past in past NASCAR games. So we'll see, of course, how we can do there I've never picked up a victory here in a NASCAR Heat video game, I don't think. So that'll be a tough one. We'll see if we can do that in the next episode. Maybe we'll go back to back. We did that a few times in NASCAR Heat 4, and hopefully we can do that here. Go back to back with a Kentucky victory. As you see the rest of the playoffs on the screen, Cole Custer is now outside looking in. Bell is in. Elliott is now into the mix. Only 17 out after that good finish. He has clawed his way back. But that will do it for this episode. Thank you all for coming out and watching, taking your time out of your day to watch this one. But I will see you guys in the next one in Kentucky. Have a great day, everybody.